Welcome to Raising the Bar with Dr. O. I am so excited to launch this podcast. It is this first episode, and we have none other than President Trippi Congo here with us as a guest. This podcast is going to engage in all discussions around the city of Wilmington, especially the educational landscape. So thank you so much, President Congo, for joining us.
You're welcome. It's good to be here. Honored to be your first guest.
Yes.
When the team told me I was going to be on first, I was like, oh, why me?
Because
I appreciate it, though.
Everything started with you, so we have to have you here. But so we're gonna jump right on in.
All right.
And first question, before we get into the serious stuff with education and the landscape, Trippi, where'd the name come from?
So it's a nickname, of course, but I was born in November, and I was supposed to be born in January. So my parents had me 2 months early. My parents were on a trip, and as soon as my mom got back, she delivered. So they said the trip made me come early. So they've been calling me Trippi ever since I was born. And it's funny because when I graduated from high school, when I graduated from mortuary school, when I graduated from Delaware State University, they didn't say Ernest Congo, they said Trippi Congo. So it's really kind of different and weird when people call me Ernest. I don't mind Ernest. That's my real name. That's my father's name. That's my son's name. But just Trippi is just what I'm used to. So, and all of the guys, like all of the men on my dad's side of the family had nicknames. So I think they thought they had to give me a nickname too. So like all my uncles had nicknames. So just, I guess the nickname thing just kind of passed down to me.
That's hilarious. So how do you feel about it? So do you like Trippi? Or
I love it.
Okay.
It's funny because I guess I'm so used to it. And again, I don't mind Ernest, but everybody has been calling me Trippi ever since I can remember. And I almost thought about like legally changing my name to Trippi, but I didn't want to do it because of my dad and my son, we're all named Ernest, but that's all I know. So, and it's as I've gotten older, some people say you got to stop calling yourself Trippi. I'm like, how can I do that? That's all I know. My kids, my family, and my kids don't call me Trippi, of course, but my parents, everybody calls me Trippi. So it would be kind of weird for me to all of a sudden just switch to Ernest, just because this is all I know.
I had so many theories on where Trippi came from.
A lot of people do.
So that wasn't one of them.
Some people say was I on drugs, like tripping off of drugs. Were my parents, were they tripping off of drugs?
So someone said, I think it's because he trips out. And I'm like, trips out? So I had to ask.
Nah, it's different, but I was just born early, and they said the trip made me come early.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So speaking of your background, so kind of walk us through the journey to becoming President Congo of the City Council. So how did this happen?
Not intentionally, honestly. Like I've never, when I was growing up, even as an adult, I never thought that I would even be in politics. I never wanted to be a politician. But my family has always, taught me the importance of always helping, always giving back. I was growing up. My parents always had community events. They always took all the kids in the neighborhood to Great Adventure. They always did like community cleanups. We always did things for the seniors, for the people who were in prison. Like we always gave them jobs. It was always about giving back. Yeah. And this was just, I guess, a natural progression to me being able to give back and for me to being able to help. I didn't want to do it. My dad actually talked me into it. He was like, you should do it because it's going to be good for you. The community loves you. They love our family. And it's just another way for you to give back to the people who have, supported my family and I throughout the 50 years that my parents have had, the Congo Funeral Home. So I did it, and I was a second district council person for 3 terms, for 12 years. And then I never wanted to be president. Like it was never my goal to be city council president. People would talk to me about it. People would encourage me and say you should do it, but that wasn't, as long as I can help. Like I don't need the different titles or the different roles. I just wanted to be a part of a group that helps people. Yeah. And it just happened the way we went through a really rough time in one of our council sessions. And I said, I didn't like the way that council members were being treated. I didn't like the way that some of the staff, they were being treated. I didn't like the way that the community was being treated. So it was hard because I never wanted to be like in that limelight. And it was hard because of friendships, like to run against, somebody who I considered my friend. But I just thought that it was the right thing to do to make sure that people were just treated fairly. So I ran, and fortunately enough, I was successful, and now I'm in my second term.
So you mentioned friendships, and it does seem like it's kind of challenging to be in this space of politics and friendships because you can kind of bump heads and it can create conflict. So how do you manage that when you have lasting friendships, but you got a job to do?
I guess I think the people in the city have always helped me to stay grounded. Even when I didn't think people were paying attention, people are, and they would always encourage me, like, Trippi, man, we are so proud of you. Like, you're one of ours, and I'm proud of the work that you're doing. And sometimes you're by yourself, but we appreciate you. Keep doing the good work. And I think that most people get into politics for the right reason, but we become friends with other politicians, and that's when the lines become a little blurry. And I've always, for some reason, I've always been able to stay true to my community and to stay true to, hopefully I have been able to stay true to my community and to stay true of why I'm here. And it's not about you and I being friends. It's not about other politicians, other elected officials and I being friends. It's about helping people who need our help. And it's funny because I don't have a lot of elected officials who are my friends. And I don't know if I just did that subconsciously because I didn't want it to be like a mistaken for, I'm always on your side just because we're friends. And so I'm friendly with everybody. I want to be nice to everybody, but I don't want to be so friendly and so nice that other elected officials start to expect something from me just because we're friends. And I think that's where so many of us go wrong because we kind of forget who we are and why we're here and who put us here. Like those other elected officials, for the most part, didn't put us here. Like the people in the community put us here. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard being in a room where you're not really accepted as an elected official because I'm always not always, but a lot of times I go against the grain. And like I'm not invited to certain spaces, but I'm okay because the spaces where I grew up and the people who have supported my family and I, they really appreciate it. So like I'm comfortable with where I am and who I am, but it's a difficult line to walk. Some of us have been able to do it. I can't speak for everybody, I guess I have been able to walk that line that makes me be okay. And other people might walk the same line and they're okay with, where they are and what circles they're in. And that's fine. But I guess I never wanted to be in a space in the community where people say, the heck, Trippi, you turned your back on us. So that's why I'm here.
How do you balance that? So is there something that you tell yourself when you might have a moment of, okay, this is someone who I have a good rapport with and this is a hard decision to make that I know will make that person mad?
It hasn't been. It hasn't been hard, honestly. It's been maybe awkward afterwards, but hard. It's never been hard because I've always just remembered people who have put me here. Again, it's awkward. And sometimes being in the room and you're not going along with everybody, but never really hard because I don't owe them anything. I owe people who voted for me. And honestly, people who didn't vote for me, and people who don't even know that they're supposed to vote. People who have no idea what goes on in city council and with the city of Wilmington. People who have no idea what goes on in the state because they haven't been educated to be involved, to be involved. So I think I owe that group of people more than I owe anybody.
So I'm going to segue because I cannot have you on this podcast without asking about Congo parties. So how did they get started and does that kind of speak to who you are as a community person?
It does. I grew up, my parents loved to entertain. They were always having house parties. Like my parents have had 2 clubs. My dad actually, I never thought about this, but my dad was born in a funeral home down in Newark. But right next door to the funeral home, they had a club. So, he grew up in a club and he was always entertaining, having friends over. And I guess it just fell on me. They were always having like house parties. They had a club down in Elkton. They had a club on the riverfront here and I was always working there.
Oh, so this is like a family.
It is. I guess so. I never really thought about it. But I love entertaining people. I love seeing people have fun. I love having people over my house, strangers. People are like, why do you have all these people over your house? You don't even know these people. You can't trust everybody. And I know that's true. And I want to be smart, but again, it's just like the city has been so good to me, so good to my family. So when I can give a little bit of that back, have them over for some hot dogs and hamburgers, get a DJ, everybody's enjoying themselves and the families are there. And it's a great feeling just to kind of sit back and just see everybody in different generations having fun. But I started having, my family and I started having a Juneteenth party a couple years ago. And it was, there were a lot of people there. And we had it in our backyard. And there were probably about 1,000 people.
Wow.
In my backyard, right? And again, we just kind of put it out on social media. It was a lot, but it was just so much fun, and it was so family oriented, and it was so good seeing people there who were like, there's a senior high rise a block up. They would hear the music, get on their walkers, get in their wheelchairs. I'm dead serious. And they would come down to the party, and they were there, and like my parents' friends were there, and my friends were there, my kids' friends were there. It was, it's just a good time, and I really just I like seeing people having a great time.
And that speaks to, there's always a lot of conversations around community and how community has gotten lost over the years. And it seems like you're wanting to contribute to maintaining that sense of community, and we don't have to know each other, we don't have to be best friends, but we can come together and have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. We get caught up in saying it's not like it used to be. It's this generation is different, but that's on us. That's our fault. Like if the ball dropped, we dropped the ball, so we can't always point fingers. Like, what are we doing to bring it back? And I think me having parties and having people at our at our legacy center and having events there and doing things like that, is just me trying to just bring that environment back, bring that love back to our community, because the children, especially, they need our help. And and it's frustrating when I hear people, especially when I hear adults say, like, these kids. Like, it's not the kids' fault. And I hate it even more when I hear them say these parents, because most of the time those parents are just children who grew up and have no idea how to parent. They have no idea about community, and we think there's something that's just supposed to click, and it doesn't. And it's like the whole adults accountable who have never been educated properly on how to raise a family, on how to be a part of your community. I think that is just totally unfair. So it just, I guess I just try to do my part, and not try to feed into that narrative of everybody's crazy and this generation is crazy. And I know that we have our crazies out there, but I think there is so much more that we can focus on, and we can't put our focus on the crazies. We got to put our focus on the good, the good areas of our community.
And what are some areas that you would share are some good areas of the community? Because we do always spend a lot of time like, what's going on with Wilmington? What's wrong? So what are the areas that we can celebrate?
Yeah, even when people talk about Wilmington, we talk about there's nothing to do, it's boring here, but we can't really compare Wilmington to Philly. That's not even fair. Like, you can't compare Wilmington to Baltimore or DC. But we're growing, and we have so much here that we can be a part of. And there are so many activities and programs for children and seniors and people who are in their 20s and 30s. There's a lot that happens here. We just have to find it. And we have to be open to it not being a Philly and it not being a DC. It's Wilmington. Philly wasn't always Philly. Baltimore wasn't always Baltimore.
Absolutely.
It grew over time to to who they are. And I think that we're in that process now of growing to be a destination, to be a place where people want to live and hang out and have fun and raise their children and just be a part of, something different. Because everybody doesn't want that fast pace of Philly. They don't want the DC, they don't want the Baltimore. I think we can be a perfect mixture of both.
I agree, and I also think that Wilmington still has been able to maintain some of that family feel, because we've been in Philly, we've been in Baltimore. That family aspect is not necessarily there in these larger cities. So when you are a smaller city, you're able to kind of maintain that level of connection that you're not necessarily going to get in those larger cities.
Yeah, not at all. I guess that's why I think that, especially politically, Delaware is so unique. And we really have to take advantage of the closeness because everybody knows everybody. Like anybody can call the mayor, anybody can call me, anybody can call the governor. They can call the Newcastle County, elected officials. They can call our senators. They can call the state reps. And I think it's up to us as elected officials to make sure that we're not letting each other get in the way of helping our people. So it's easy for for us just to reach out and make things happen. I don't think there are too many cities that are situated like we are here in Wilmington and in Delaware, where we can just make things happen just by picking up a phone or sending over a text, or going on the other side of town and going over somebody's house, because everybody lives so closely to each other.
Absolutely.
So I just think that we have to take advantage of that.
I agree. I remember one time I was walking during COVID, and I walked and saw, at the time, the governor, now the mayor, and I'm like, oh, you live right here.
Right.
So you're right. You can quite literally run into anyone in the streets or in a restaurant or what have you.
Right.
So with that in mind, though, there is a space of having the family, but then also not allowing some of those connections to get in the way of progress. Because that's another thing that can kind of happen in Delaware, maybe even in the city. So how
Tell me what you mean.
So in the sense of, well, we don't want to offend this group of people.
Right.
So that's why we're not going to move forward with this idea.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah. So how do we push ahead while still maintaining the family connection?
I think the only way to really do that is to make sure that the community is involved. Right. So, because I'm one person, and I'm speaking, but I'm hopefully representing thousands of people.
Yeah.
And the only way that I think other elected officials will understand that it's not really my voice, but it's these thousands of people, it's their voice who I'm representing, is when those thousands of people show up. And I've seen it. Like, I've seen it with my own eyes in council chambers where council members have been thinking about voting a certain way, and now it's meeting time, and that chamber is packed, and they have changed their minds.
Yes.
They have changed their votes on how they're going to support or not support something. So I think the community is paramount. A lot of times, I think I even did it before I got really involved in politics. Like, we vote for someone and then we disappear, and we expect the next 4 years that person just to navigate everything that we expect them to without showing up, without supporting them. But when people show up, it's a game changer. So I think the key is just the community staying involved after elections.
And what are the best ways to do that? So how can, because the reality is people show up for elections, and we're not always having as many people show up as we would like, but you might show up for election day, and then life happens, right? The school, your kids are going to school, you're cooking, you're cleaning, you're doing all these different things. How can you stay involved, or what does that look like?
I think honestly, it's through education, because I know I was never taught to be involved politically in my community, in my neighborhood, in my city. Like, I grew up, I had no idea who my civic association members were, who the president was, who was on city council. I had no idea. And I think that we have to somehow integrate local politics into our school system, so children know who we are, who their elected officials are. So children know who their community association members are. They know how to show up to a meeting and try to get stuff done in their community. But we don't know. We're taught about the president, we're taught about the vice president, and after that, like, it's just not. I don't want to say it's not important, but we're not taught there. Local politics is way more important than national politics.
Absolutely.
So I think that our schools have to begin to teach local politics at a very young age, so it's just normal for kids to show up at civic association meetings and council meetings. I before I was elected, I never came to a council meeting.
Yeah.
And one time I did, because I was being recognized for doing some stuff for some children, but never just to be engaged politically. I didn't know I didn't know. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's my responsibility to help others to understand their responsibility. Like, I love that you supported me, and I appreciate it. Thank you for your vote. But I need you at these meetings. Yeah. Like, I need you at these civic association meetings. I need you to say hi to your neighbor. Yeah. I need you to go out and, just sweep with your neighbor and be a part of your community, because we can't, like, I think the community expect elected officials to do so much, and we're supposed to. We're getting paid for it, and we're voted to do those things, but we can only do but so much. The community is the real push behind any type of change if we want to see it in our community.
I love that you said that, because I do think that that's probably a misconception, right? You kind of if you are involved in voting, generally people go vote.
Right.
They expect the elected officials to just do their job and do
Right.
what they said that they were going to do when they were running or campaigning, and then we disappear.
Right.
And then we come back around when it's time to vote again. But you're kind of speaking to staying involved and supporting as a guide, kind of.
Yeah, and hold us accountable.
Yeah.
Like I might have a whole campaign literature about what I'm going to do and why I'm going to do it, and I'm there for you. In those next 4 years, I might do the complete opposite.
Yeah.
But if the community isn't there to hold me accountable, if they don't know how I'm voting, if they're not in that council chamber saying, "Hey, how you going to vote, Trippi?" Like, well, I'm watching. Like people go astray.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, I've seen it where that community shows up, and it's a totally different outcome. It is beautiful. I love it when that happens. Some council members don't. Some people get very frustrated, but again, I was a part of some sessions where the community was kind of stifled and people weren't really able to speak how they wanted to speak. I just thought it was so unfair, and people get on me about public comment, and I just let the public talk too long. I let them talk about whatever they want to talk about. I'm like, that's why they're here. Like, how do you put parameters around people who are paying us? And people who have voted for us, and people who need us, like, how do you put parameters around what they can talk about?
Yeah.
I know there has to be some type of guidelines around how long they can talk. But if somebody's going over a couple minutes, like, okay. We have so many meetings where people don't even show up, so there's no community. There's no public comment. And then sometimes when there are hours of community comment, right? But it equals itself out.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why we're here. We signed up for it, so we can't get mad when people show up and talk. I can't get mad if somebody says something bad about me.
Yeah.
If it's the truth. I can't get mad. It might be embarrassing.
Yeah.
But again, that's holding me accountable. I don't want to keep on being embarrassed, so I might change, how I walk, how I vote. But we can't ask for their input. We can't ask them to show up. And when they show up and they don't agree with us, we can't try to say, okay, don't show up or don't talk. We don't talk about this.
Yeah.
I just think that's unfair.
I think that's so bold and courageous, though, because I do think that, people are people, right? And they're individuals, and folks have their, insecurities or things that can kind of show up in different spaces.
Right.
So it seems like you're very open to whatever someone is sharing, whereas someone else might be like, don't come in and say that in public or on the record.
Yeah,
don't blast me.
Talk to me after the meeting, right? But after the meeting isn't always as effective.
Yeah.
And again, I've been there. Like, I've been in the seat when somebody says, "Hey, council president," or "Hey, council member Congo, you did this or you didn't do this." I know it feels uncomfortable, but it helps me to grow. Hopefully, it helps all of us to grow as elected officials, as leaders. I don't really consider us leaders, honestly. I think the community leads us. I think that we have to follow the community's, direction. But that helps us to grow as far as who we are elected to be and why we're here.
Absolutely.
And it's not always a good feeling.
Yeah.
But the only way to change that is if we're representing the community and if we're representing the people who put us in these seats, is to change our thinking sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing that you have kind of consistently been really passionate about is education.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
Talk me through that. Why are you there's so many things to be passionate about. Why education?
I just think that education is a game changer. I used to have a program called the Student of the Week. That's why I was actually recognized before I was even on council, where I would pick up a student who did well in school, who did better in school. I would pick them up in a limousine. I would pick up the student and up to 6 of their friends and take them to breakfast, and then take them to school and drop them off in a limo, because I knew, and it wasn't always about the honor roll students. It was about students, and we did it for everybody. So if a parent or a neighbor or a teacher or even a student said, "Hey, this guy or this lady, they got all D's last time, but you know what? Now they're getting all C's," and I just want to appreciate them. They would call me up and say, "Hey, Trippi, can you pick up my son?" I'm like, "I'll be there."
And this was just your initiative.
Yes.
Wow.
And I thousands, and it's so funny now because I started it probably 25 years ago, And now, of course, those students who I picked up are adults and they're parents, and I don't recognize them, but they recognize me because that moment was so special for them. Yeah. And I said, man, I know you don't remember me, but when I was in 3rd grade, you picked me up and you took me to school, and I just want to thank you. And that's a great feeling. And I just know that people who are educated are able to make better decisions. They're not, for the most part, going to jail. Yeah. They're not, for the most part, just in the streets, selling drugs. They're not trying to harm other people. So I know that if we can get our school system right, if we can get our education system right here in the city and in the state, I just think that we can be a model state that other states can say, look what Delaware did, look what Wilmington did. We can do the same thing. And I've seen where, I grew up with a bunch of guys who didn't value education, and their families didn't value education, but mine did. And I saw each one of them go to jail, and now they're trying to make up lost time. We're all in our 50s now, and they're trying to make up lost time because they didn't understand the importance of going to school and staying in school. They didn't understand the importance of working, So now they're trying to play catch up, and it's hard for them, and it's hard for their children because they didn't know it. So they didn't know how to teach their children that same type of expectations. Yep. So
the cycle repeats
itself. Yeah, the
cycle
repeats itself. So I just see that, and even if someone doesn't always have a strong family core, if they have a teacher, if they have a principal, if they have a guidance counselor, somebody who believes in them, they can still be successful. They can still make it out of their environment. Yep. They can still find a way to contribute once they graduate from high school. So I guess I've seen so much, and my parents have always made sure that I was grounded in the city and grounded in the community and grounded around people who may not have as much as me, and help me to understand how it's my duty, my responsibility to help those people. Yep. And I just think that education is the equalizer. If we can get it right, we can change the outcome of a lot of people who live in our city.
And how did that then lead, and that passion then lead to you deciding to launch the Office of Educational Advocacy?
I don't know, honestly. It was always very frustrating to see like our numbers as far as efficiency in reading and writing, and to see how private schools don't have those same numbers all the time, and see how some charter schools don't have those same numbers all the time. And I'm like, why if something is working in a school, I think other schools have to be humble enough to say, you know what, let me try that. The principals can't say, well, I don't want to do it, because then it might make me look like I don't really know. If I'm following him, why do I need to be here? So I think that sometimes pride might get in the way. Yeah. And I guess it's very frustrating to see some schools have students that are just so, they're doing so well, and some schools just can't figure it out. Yeah. And I know that sometimes that goes back to the where they're from, and to where to their parents, and to what zip code they're in. I don't know. I just think that if a child can go to a school and get that kind of love that they might not be getting at home, get those kind of resources that they might not be getting at home, get that kind of guidance that they might not be getting at home, I just think that they can still make it. And I think it's our responsibility to help those parents too. Like, we can't, some people say you can't do it without the parents, and I agree, but you can't. We got to help the parents too. We got to figure out a way that parents can seek help if they need help, and help them to understand that they might need help, and help them to be humble enough to say, okay, I need help, and I need help raising my son. I need help raising my daughter. I can't do this math problem. I don't know how to read and write. Yep. But maybe there's somebody who can come in and help me to read and write too, so I can be proud of myself. I just think there is so much that we can do, and I think it's our responsibility to do it. I don't think that we can say there's not enough funding, because we can find money when we want it.
That's true.
So if we know that a program works, and if we know that it'll work for this entire district, we got to make sure that it's funded properly. And we can't say that we don't have enough money, because people always say it. You never heard a prison say that we don't have enough money to expand, right?
Yeah, you're right. The prisons never run out of money.
Right, they never run out of money, right? So, yeah, priorities might run out of money.
Yeah,
but I think it has to be our priority to say, okay, we're going to make sure that our people are good. And it's frustrating because, like, Wilmington is 70% minority, Black and Hispanic, right? And for us not to be able to get it together, and there are a lot more people who are brighter than me in the education field, and for us not to be able, for us to still be at a point where we're trying to figure it out, it almost seems like it's intentional.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
It's like, it works.
Yes.
But how come we're not applying it to people who really need it?
There's plenty of research
that
we can apply that fixes or addresses a lot of the issues that we come across. And I think, sometimes we run into, like you said, ego, because there is a space that, and I'm hearing a through line with you of humility, and how important it is to put pride and ego to the side for the greater good and for the greater community.
Right.
And that kind of comes through in all aspects of your life.
Yeah, and I guess, like, Wilmington not having a say in how our children are educated. Like, I've always heard Councilman J Street say that Wilmington is one of the only cities in the country that has no direct say on how our children are educated.
Yeah.
And I've been hearing him say that for years. And for years, I just thought that, okay, I can't do anything about it. But there was a meeting that some of our state elected officials had about maybe a year ago. No, it wasn't a year ago. It was this year. I can't remember. Yeah. But it was Namdi, Tizzy, and they had some other people with them, a lot of community leaders. And they were just saying, hey, Wilmington, we need your help. Like, we're fighting for you. Like, we're fighting down in Dover, but it's just us.
Yep.
We need for Wilmington to be in this fight with us. So, and just something like just kind of clicked. Like, wow. Finally, like, I've always wondered, like, I've always loved to help, and I've always wondered, like, why I'm here. Like, why am I still a council person? It'll be 20 years at the end of this term, and I've always wondered why. And now, like, I think this is my why. Like, this is why I'm here. Like, there have been several years, like, leading up to this, but now I figured out my why, and my why is the Office of Advocacy for Education. And Marshall Bassnight, it was funny because we were both in that meeting, and I guess we were both thinking the same thing. She was like, Trippi, why don't we do something? I was thinking the same thing. Let's do something. Let's do something. Let's stop listening to people saying that we can't have a say.
Yeah.
The state has always said it. The county has always said it. Like, I guess people tell you things a long enough time, you start to believe it, right? Yeah. So I was like, I thought I was stuck. But now I know that we're not stuck. Now I know that we have to kick in the door, and we have to make people understand that we have to be at this table to make sure that our children are going to be educated properly.
Absolutely, because there's been so many years of decisions being made for the city of Wilmington, or not even considering the city of Wilmington for the state, and then the city of Wilmington just kind of gets what's left, versus being at the table, having the discussion, and making sure that our voices are heard before the bill is passed, before the legislation comes across the table. So now that the office has been established, and we're now looking at all of the different ways that the office can drive conversation, can make impact, what are some hopes and desires that you have now that we're here?
Probably the biggest one, and for me, it always goes back to community. Like, we're not going to be able to fight this fight without parents and without teachers who understand, and without children who understand that they have to be at the table with us. So somehow we have to help people to understand that we're not going to just be another group around education that just regurgitates numbers. They have to know that we are their advocates. We have to gain their trust and their love, so they can open up to us, so they can come to meetings and not feel they're not going to be heard, not going to be embarrassed, and They're going to be a part of the decisions. So I think that's where it starts. Like we have to figure out how to get people to know who we are. And I'm glad that you have this podcast, because I think this is a great opportunity just for people to see who we are, and that we're here to help, and we want people to help us, because we can't do it by ourselves. Because I think, and I just think there's going to be an extreme resistance to what we're trying to accomplish, and I think that the only way we overcome that resistance is through numbers. And it can't just be council members. It can't just be you by yourself, and it can't just be elected officials. We have to figure out, we have to help the community to understand that they can trust us. And we're gonna have each other's back, and to be at these meetings where decisions are being made. So that's my first goal. I don't think anything moves without the community. Like we can talk about what we want. We can have a lot of aspirations. We can be as mad as we want to be, but if the community isn't right there saying, yeah, we're mad too, it's going to fall on deaf ears.
I agree. And I think, now we're in the space of building trust with the community. First being visible in the community, knowing that we're here, but also building that trust, because there's been so many years of disappointment, and, accusations and all these different things. So bringing together all of those different groups of people and building trust among them is key, so that we can all move forward and move forward together.
What do you think one of your biggest challenges will be?
Well, now you're flipping the table on
That's
me.
Right.
So I think one of the biggest challenges will be kind of working through the pride and the fear. So if I look at the conversation around redistricting, there's a lot of fear there. And not just because people are scared of change, but if I'm an educator, I'm worried about job security. So there's a level of fear around change, misinformation. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges, that we have to kind of cut through a lot of the noise and make sure that people, one, know that we're here, know what we stand for, but then also cutting through all of the other information pieces that are going to them, and making sure that the message is clear.
What do you think the benefit of redistricting will be?
So right now, and you kind of spoke about it, there's no scaling of success. So you have one school here that's doing something great, and they can't go to this other school because this other school is part of another district. And so the governance structure is structured so that there's so many decision makers over small parts of Wilmington schools. So the redistricting at least brings that part together, because as long as we're broken up by multiple districts, you can't scale. Because this district is going to do their thing, this district is going to do their thing. It is almost impossible. Clearly it's impossible, because it hasn't happened, for us to scale success, for us to put systems in place that will serve every school. So it's a lot of, this school has this school has this, but every school doesn't have the same thing, and what's working at one school isn't transferred to another. So as long as we have to go through all of those different bodies of people, different school boards, different unions, I mean, you'll spend your time there, right? You're not going to actually get to impacting the students and the teachers, because you're spending your time talking to all the decision makers.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a huge hurdle. Especially you mentioned unions. I know everybody wants to, the unions want to protect, who they're supposed to protect, and I understand that. But like you said, at some point we have to see that it's bigger than us. Like unions have to see it, parents have to see, and elected officials have to see, like, this is bigger than us. It's bigger than my job security. It's like what do we want for our children? Like what do we want for our city? What do we want for our state? That's going to be a huge hurdle to jump, but I think that we have to at least try.
We have to try.
Yeah, we have to try. What do you think about what our children are taught? I guess I ask you that question because it seems like I grew up, I went to a private school. I went to Sanford School, right? And I didn't learn about local politics. I didn't learn about how to manage my money. I didn't learn about how to cook. I didn't learn about what community was. I didn't learn about how to dress. I didn't learn about how to take care of a family. And I just think that we're at a point where we can say that's the family's responsibility, but the family doesn't know how to do it. So I think there's a point where we got to say, look, we got to start teaching these things in school and start blaming parents who were never taught how to do it because they don't know how to do it. So why do we keep on having this expectancy for parents to teach their children something that they were never taught? But I just think that the school, like, it's good to have a local boys and girls club. It's good to have a local community center, but every child isn't going to go to that center, right? So those programs are important, but I just think that every child is going to go to school. I just think that we have to recreate what we're teaching our children if we want them to be successful adults. I don't know if that's ever been like a conversation.
Yeah, it has, and I will say that I don't agree with that completely, just because schools, so much is regulated right now,
right? And
schools are running out of. It's more curriculum than day at this point. Schools are almost running out of time to build in everything, because you still have all your core subjects, you still have all of those electives and all of these required courses. Then you have financial literacy, you have media literacy, you're almost running out of time. So I do think that there has to be a more intentional wraparound. So it might be a Boys and Girls Club, but I do agree that everyone goes to school. So I do think that things should happen at the school site. But I don't know if I agree that the school has to do everything, because you just run out of capacity. You're not going to be able to find a home ec teacher and someone who could teach you how to write a resume. Like, it's just, you run out of the space. The schools are still an organization, and they still have to, figure out the schedule and all those different things. But I do think I agree with you in the sense of students need to learn that information. And especially in Wilmington, there's so many groups that do that, but they're not doing it for everyone. So they might have this great relationship with this one principal here, so that school community is getting all of this information, but they don't have a relationship with this principal over here. So I do think that we have all of the ingredients in the city. So you have the schools doing what the schools should be doing, right? You have the different groups doing what they're doing, but they're not always doing it together. So that's why you have this mixed match of one student getting this experience and another student getting this experience. So I would say I think schools and the community organizations need to have a stronger partnership. So schools are doing what schools are supposed to do, and let's make sure that that's happening, right? Because that's another conversation. But if a community organization has people who know how to teach resume writing and teach students how to show up for interviews and all of these other things so that they can be successful citizens, why is that organization not just coming to that school three times a week and meeting with all the students?
Yeah, I think that's where the church comes into play too. Like, I think our churches really have to understand their importance of trying to revitalize our city and revitalize our community, because churches have the attention of thousands of people every Sunday, and if we can kind of get like a message that we want our churches to say, that we want all of our pastors to say, every first and third Sunday, maybe of something that's going to help create a new Wilmington, a new mindset in our community. I think that we somehow we have to get our churches involved.
I agree, because churches are community leaders as well. And they have the voice, or they have the presence of a lot of times a large crowd, or even just consistent people who are coming, even if it's not a large church. So you're right. I agree that community leaders, community organizations, there has to be a space where we're all coming together and not all just separately doing our own thing. Because as long as we do our own thing, we're not really going to be able to make traction.
So tell us who you are.
Okay.
This is our first podcast, so people need to know, like, who's Dr. O?
So Dr. O is a product of the church.
All right.
My father was a Baptist pastor. I grew up in a small town in New Jersey. So similar to you, I always felt like I needed to give back. And my mother was a public school social worker, so I always knew I was going to give back. Thought I was going to become a lawyer. Didn't happen.
That's good.
So I ended up making the shift to education while I was an undergrad. And since then have gone from teaching high school English to being a school leader, assistant principal, all of these different positions in school leadership. I was a school leader for about 15 years before coming into this role in May.
All right.
So, I love kids. I love community, and I love bringing people together. And I agree with you. I think that's something that we have in common, that it is a coming together that results in changing the whole. So I'm passionate about that.
Okay. You said you wanted to be a lawyer, but you ended up in the space where you are now. How did that happen? Just through your family?
It's funny. My roommate actually ended up becoming a lawyer. So I walked into she came home from school one day, or came home from a class one day. We were both planning on being lawyers, and she had this pamphlet and said, on the back of the pamphlet, it said, "You don't want to be a lawyer if," and everything that was on that pamphlet was what I wanted to do. So that was my shift out of law and into education, and I was able to work with Upper Bound as an undergraduate or as an undergrad, and that was just, I had that teaching light bulb experience, and that's what led to me wanting to just go forth with education.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Rutgers for undergrad, which is the State University in New Jersey.
Okay.
And then I went to Penn State and Temple for my master's in English literature, and then my PhD in urban education.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. When did you earn your last degree? How long ago was it?
What was that, 2015?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a while. So before I was Miss Powell, and now I'm Dr. O.
Dr. O.
But we are going to wrap up because I know we could probably talk forever. Thank you so much, President Congo.
You got the signal?
I have the signal.
All right.
We can keep going? All right. Okay. No, I got the signal that we can keep going. So let's keep going. But, so it's funny with education that I had a moment of like the light bulb teaching moment. And then I went to Penn State, where I taught college freshmen, and it was a completely different group of students. And I realized I actually don't care about English literature, right? I care about it, but I don't care about it to the extent of, doing this for the rest of my life. I actually want to come back and teach with the students who I taught in Upper Bound, because that was fun. When I taught college freshmen, I'm like, this isn't fun. Like, y'all care about this more than I do, right? But coming back and teaching the students and high school students was where I became really, really passionate. Okay. So I came back I'm from New Jersey, like I said, so I came back and taught in Trenton, New Jersey. During an interesting time. Wilmington reminds me a little bit of Trenton at that time, because it's, kind of that smaller city, a lot of pride, a lot of history, and a lot of different experiences. We kind of had the neighborhoods kind of being against the other neighborhood. We had some of those elements that when I came to Wilmington, I'm like, okay, this reminds me of Trenton. So it's interesting to kind of think through that journey, because I did not think I wanted to be an educator. I really knew I was going to be a lawyer. But as soon as I had the moment with the students, I realized this is what I want to do. I don't want to sit in, even at Penn State, I don't want to sit and write papers and do research, papers and talk to people in other cubicles across the country and argue about things that nobody's going to care about. I wanted to see it in practice. I wanted to see that theory come alive. I wanted to see what happens when we take things out of the halls of academia and we actually bring it to the real people. And that's what took me away from going into academia and really going back into the K through 12 public sector. And I've been here for 2 decades.
Wow. Okay. All right. What would your ask be from elected officials? We have time?
Yes.
Do we? Okay.
Yeah, we got time.
All right.
So from elected officials, I think understanding that this is a complex scenario that we're in with the city of Wilmington, and that there are foundational pieces that need to happen in order to move forward. So one is just understanding that this is complex and that change doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
And the value of building trust with the community, the value of hearing from different people in the community, because that's going to guide what we do.
Right.
And trust takes time. But while we're taking the time to build the trust, we're still going to be moving forward with our, some target goals in terms of making sure we're having public facing moments for everyone in the community to be involved versus just having the one-on-one conversations. Understanding that when we're connecting one stakeholder group to another stakeholder is because we're fixing a bond that may have been broken for whatever reason or never even forged, right? So I think from the public and elected officials, I'd want them to join us, right? Realize that this is not a one-person office. This is not a one office. Even as the office expands, it's going to your point, take multiple people from multiple spaces, understanding the bigger picture. And that the bigger picture isn't about ego. It's not about a photo op. It's about doing the work because the work is going to be what changes the lives of our students and changes the trajectory of the city of Wilmington and the students in the city of Wilmington. So I think that's really important for the elected officials to know.
Okay. All right, I think I've asked enough questions.
I was not prepared for the interview.
But I appreciate you for having me on.
Absolutely.
It's been an honor. It's really exciting that you're here. We went through the interview process, and hands down, everybody wanted you first, right? We had to meet each other, at a certain point. I was like, we had some really good people interviewed, really, really good people. And we didn't even know each other, but you just stuck out. And I was asking the people who were in the room, I was like, who stuck out the most? And everybody, to a person, said you. Everybody was on Team Dr. O. I was like, we got to make it happen. We got to figure it out, because I just think that I know she's the right person. So I'm glad that we were able to figure it out. I'm glad that you are part of the team. I'm just looking forward to us working together just to, like you just said, just change the lives of our children, of our adults, of our community, and just change the trajectory of how our children are taught and what they're taught. So congratulations. And
thank you.
we're going to need help.
Yes.
I think that's the thing that I think that if anybody gets anything from this podcast, from this interview, we're going to need help.
Yes.
You can't do it by yourself. We can't do it alone. Council can't do it alone. We're going to need people to show up, to come and volunteer, just to share your experiences, and just be a part of this revolution.
Thank you. And I could say it no better, so we're going to wrap on that. Thank you so much, President Congo, for coming.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap for Raising the Bar with Dr. O.